Hello, my name is Rain and welcome to my channel where I usually discuss Fantasy Formula 1, but today I thought we would go through and rank the team livery reveals, or the team reveals, whatever you would call it, from the F1 75 event at the O2 Arena. I just finished watching it. Actually, I turned off when Take That came on the stage. I couldn't be bothered listening to that. I'm so sorry, Take That. If you're watching this for some reason, it's nothing personal, okay? I just wanted to see the cars and get out of there. Overall, thoughts on the event? It was kind of cringe, but it was kind of good cringe. I only properly cringed a couple of times, and I'll talk about that later on in the video. But sure, if you like F1 fantasy, you come to the right channel. If you just want to watch me, talk down to these teams that do way more, these marketing teams that do way more with their lives than what I do, stick around. It's going to be fun. We have our rankings here, S to F. I'm going to start with just ranking the liveries, and then I'm going to rank the actual sort of launch reveal of it. So we'll begin with McLaren here, because they were the last out. I mean, it's the same livery. It's a good livery, but it's the same livery, so it's kind of boring. I can't give it higher than an A tier. It looks good. Let's be real. It looks good, and I think Red Bull, I put them here because it's exactly the same. It's a good livery. They've not changed it in the past, 10 years? There's not much to say about it. I didn't see anything that was different about it. Let's talk about one that is slightly new. We have the Slime Green Sauber. I like it more than last year. I think the green in the front is at least, more noticeable when we look at it from the front. So I like that. I still don't like it, but I mean, how much can you really do with that slime green color? I'm excited for the Nico Hulkenberg Hulk memes. I feel like that's something the marketing team should lean into. So I do want to see that throughout the year, but I can't give the livery higher than a B. And it really is the color, man. The color is so ugly, but that's not their fault. I mean, I guess it's their fault taking on that sponsor, but whatever. Mercedes, they had this black silver, the silver in the front. I kind of like that transition into the black. It's not bad, but I don't know how much I like the silver to black transition. I think the black Mercedes looks good. I think the silver Mercedes look good. The combination that it's sort of gone with, not sure I'm a huge fan. I'm also going to put it a B tier. It's better than the Sauber, let's be real. Is the Sauber C tier actually? Nah, the Sauber's B tier, it's fine. I think the Williams, the Williams doesn't look bad. It's kind of boring. It's kind of samey. I think it's lower than the Sauber because at least the Sauber's changed something, As for Ferrari, listen, this pains me. Okay, I'm a Ferrari fan. I'm so excited to see Charles Leclerc or Lewis Hamilton win the title this year. But the HP logo with the white strip, from this image, you look at it from the front, but when you're looking at it from the side, there's so much white in that strip. It's still a Ferrari. The red does look nice, but they kept that little black bit that I don't like, and then just added the white strip of the HP logo. It's gonna be a C tier for me. It's going to be a C tier. Let's talk a good livery then. Alpine. I really like the Alpine one. This is what I've wanted the Alpine to look like for so long. I feel like I have to put it in S just because this is what I've been asking for. I think when it's gone full pink, it's been kind of bad. I think when it's gone no pink and teased pink, it's also been kind of bad. I really like this match. I feel like a lot of teams this year have gone with the two colors. Mercedes have the silver into black. Sauber have the green into black. Ferrari have the red into the white, I suppose. McLaren have been, orange and black for a while. I really like the Alpine livery. I think it looks good. I like the pink in the front. Gotta put the Alpine in S. And we only have 3 cars remaining here. I'm gonna take my least favorite one. Aston Martin. I've always liked the Aston Martin green. I think the green suits them. But there's just a lot of black on this, and then the yellow, I don't think I'm a fan. I think it's probably the worst livery this year, which is crazy to say because Aston Martin has been pretty good recently. So I'm going to put the Aston Martin in F tier. Is it worse than the Ferrari? I think it actually is. I think the Ferrari just got saved by, Ferrari being red. But that's my bias as well, and I also didn't really fancy the Aston Martin livery at all. I think the Haas is also firmly in C tier. It's kind of boring. I like the white from the side, the switch from the black on the side last year. I think the car looks good, but I don't like it particularly. But I think it's probably B tier though. I don't think it's really as far down as these two. And then we're gonna talk about the GOAT livery. V Corp is clearly the best livery this year. That white. It reminds me of the white Red Bull. It's a fantastic livery. You can't really say much about it. I like the blue in the back and then the little balls charging into the white. It's just a good livery, man. It's just a fantastic livery. That's the liveries. Let's actually talk about the launch videos, presentations that they had, and actually slate these teams a bit more. Because honestly, like a livery, even Aston Martin, it's not that bad. You can't really mess it up that bad. So I'm just going to use the liveries again for this, but let's begin this time, actually do it from the back, right? We had Sauber. Now, a lot of green flashing colors, drummers with the green sticks. I thought that they would like, you know, that all teams would have a similar thing. And I didn't realize until like once we actually got into that each team had 10 minutes to basically do whatever they wanted. And Sauber's, I have to put Sauber kind of mid. They set the bar, right? It wasn't a bad reveal, but it was kind of awkward. It took a long time. It was a lot of like lights and you know, build up towards showing what I assume to be a tractor, you know. And when they finally rolled the John Deere out onto the stage, you had Mattia Binotto, Bortoleto, and Hulkenberg walking in front of it, and they looked kind of awkward, right? They didn't seem too happy to be there, and you know, they kept looking back and not looking at the camera. It was a bit, you know, the actual performance leading up to it felt very polished, and then when like the actual reveal happened, it didn't feel that polished. We had a little interview with them. I didn't really listen to what was said. They had some, you know, loud chatter from, you know, what the drivers said before all of that, which got really muffled. It was like distorted on both Nico's and Gabriel's voice. I think this is the epitome of like middle of the road car reveal. It wasn't too offensive. You had some green drums, some green lights, and then they just rolled out the car. I'll put it in the middle of the road. At least they didn't offend anyone, and we're going to have a couple of those later on. So let's talk about the next one to roll out, which was Williams. The Williams was way quicker on the money, way shorter. In a way, they didn't put as much effort into it, but at least James Vowles felt like he owned the stage. He felt like he was kind of a presenter, presenting the car, presenting the drivers. I'm going to put Williams in the B tier as well. It wasn't anything extraordinary. They just kind of showed the car, had some interviews, chatted to Sainz and Albon, and left by any means. It wasn't bad by any means. Let's see who was next. It was VCarb. Now, VCarb, fantastic livery. Terrible reveal. I mean, the actual reveal of the car was cool, but the video they had talking to everyone on the streets, like, oh, it's VCarb. Oh, the third thing on all Londoners' minds is Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. They were kind of playing a joke on it, but it was also the first time throughout the show that I like properly cringed. Leading up to this, I was very neutral on both the Sauber and the Williams reveals, and this one, it made my skin crawl a little bit, so I cannot put it higher than a C tier. Was it D? Was it that bad? I don't think it was, just because I know what's coming, right? So I'm gonna say a C tier reveal for VCarb. When they finally rolled the car out, they chatted to Yuki and Hadjar. It was kind of like, oh, let's get some noise going, wow. And I don't know, I can't remember his name, but I think he's a comedian. Yeah, it wasn't fantastic. I think it goes bottom of C tier for the VCarb reveal. Now let's talk about Haas. Instant D tier, terrible reveal. Why? Because it was all, we're American now, and it was like, oh, let's celebrate our drivers, and it's like Grosjean in flames, and with the country music beforehand, and also America is an absolutely is an absolute shit show right now. Let's be real. So anything pandering to the American audience is automatically cringe, and it was the second time that I cringed for during the show. And I mean, overall, it's just a bad reveal. Ocon, Behrman didn't do anything wrong, but again, it was kind of like the Binotto, Hulkenberg, Bortoleto effect, where they seem kind of awkward to be there. The reveal was so, oh, let's be American, and then you bring out the French and the British driver and the Japanese team leader, and we're maybe getting bought by Toyota. It felt very much like, oh, let's try and reel in the American audiences into becoming Haas fans before Cadillac, it was bad. It was bad. It's definitely more offensive than V-Carb's reveal. Let's talk about Alpine, okay? Love the livery. I like when I saw the front of it and the pink, I was immediately hooked. I was like, oh, yes, it's pink. You know? I was very happy. But that was after, what, 5 minutes of the DJ standing there? What did it even say? Rise up? Or something? It said some, I can't even remember what it said. But it was some generic thing. And then their team leader joked about it afterwards. I mean, this is terrible. If not for the American imagery of Haas, it would be worse. But it can't be higher. I watched a DJ fake scratch things for 4 minutes, and even I know it's not just a DJ, it's the guy who literally made the Formula 1 theme song. Put some respect on his name. I don't know his name, I can't remember it. That was awful. I cringed the first time I saw him, like the moment there was like, oh, there's a DJ there, his haircut, the fringe in his face. So that was the third time I cringed throughout the show, and I thought it was going to be a short one where you're like, oh, there's a DJ hyping us up, and then out comes Gasly and Doohan, but he was there for far too long. And having a DJ fake scratching things, that's like Eurovision 2013 vibes. Very dated. He stood there for way too long. I don't know why. He baited the drop like twice. Yeah, terrible reveal. Fantastic livery. Terrible reveal. As for Aston Martin, that was all over the place. You start with the James Bond thing, terrible CGI. Out comes Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso taking off their helmets in their suits like they were the ones in the video. But then they like immediately scrapped that concept because I would imagine they had to literally rush out of the audience again to get changed into their race suits so they could be there for the reveal. So they had to like think of something in the meanwhile, and they completely shifted the mood to this sort of like solemn or like classy vibe to it with the violins and Thames coming out and singing, and like she looked gorgeous. And I think for the Aston Martin reveal, the two different sides weren't bad. The two different concepts of the reveal weren't bad. They just did not mesh together at all. If that makes sense, right? If they'd stuck with the James Bond theme throughout the entire thing, that would have been cool. If they'd stuck with the classy, you know, the violins, the Thames feel throughout the entire thing, that would have been cool. It was just that shift that was super odd. And then the CGI looked horrible as well. Again, it wasn't bad. Either of the two parts wasn't bad. They just didn't mesh together. It's definitely better than this. I think I have to put it top of B. I want to put it A. I think separately, each of those two reveals would have been A tier. But the odd mix just didn't work for me. So I'm going to put it in top of B tier. All right, let's talk about Mercedes then. And Mercedes, McLaren and Ferrari are very similar in that they all very much lean heavily into like the history of the team. And I like that. It's a very safe way to go. You know, we're celebrating the 75th edition. I mean, I guess Haas and Williams sort of did that as well. You can't really go wrong with doing that unless you do it the Haas way. But as for Mercedes, you know, they started like, oh, every team or every dream needs a team, something like that, showing the Mercedes, the class. It looks really, really good. And they bring out the car, and then up comes the pit crew. I don't know if it's the actual pit crew or if it's some other people. I don't think they actually, like, they didn't do anything. They did a pit stop and they botched it. And that's so funny to me. Then Toto Wolff spoke a bit and there was some interviews, you know, nothing crazy. At least, you know, he seemed relatively comfortable on the stage, despite him being, you know, slated by Whitehall earlier for losing Lewis Hamilton. I'm going to put the Mercedes reveal at A tier just because that botched pit stop was so funny. That was peak cinema, and I can't believe no one else thought of that. Imagine if Ferrari had done that though. That would have actually been instant S tier. But overall, I mean, not offensive. It wasn't the greatest reveal ever, or you know. But I think it was better than the others. And also, I mean, that botched piss up is so unbelievably funny that you can't. That definitely brought it up. That did not bring down the overall score of the reveal, just because of how funny it is. Let's do Red Bull then. Was Red Bull the only team to not get interviewed? I feel like it was. Red Bull, I think, was the only team where they did not interview the drivers because Max Verstappen clearly did not want to be there. And I mean, Red Bull, if Haas hadn't pandered so hard to the American audience, Red Bulls would have been the worst. It's actually worse than the DJ. I think the actual video of the Red Bull one wasn't awful. It's definitely better than the V-Carbs. You know, you look at the V-Carb sort of cutaway interview talking about VCarb to the Red Bull one. I think the Red Bull one's actually better. I mean, it didn't make me cringe as much as the VCarb one. That was definitely the best part of the Red Bull reveal. But to start the Red Bull reveal with Christian Horner going up and getting booed, come on, guys. You can't do that. You've already had the FIA being booed, which amazing that they didn't think that was going to happen. And if they ever do this event again for the 80th anniversary, or if they begin doing this every year, they're definitely going to mute the audience, because that was really funny. That was really funny, FIA getting booed. But when Horner got up there and instantly got booed, and he had to stand there and keep talking about it, and then Max, I mean, I think it's unfair that Max got booed, but I mean, you are in London, right? There's way more Hamilton fans there. Yikes. Very much yikes. Have to go D tier. And even then, like, the video wasn't even that good. So I'm starting it off with Horner talking for 2 minutes. Bad idea. And then when they actually rolled out the car, they had a bunch of people jumping around it like it was some sort of party. It looked like you were celebrating coming 8th place in the constructor and not like, you know, the driver's championship winning car. So it looked really cheap. And then they just cut away when Max and Liam walked out. No interview, which is awkward. So definitely, probably objectively the worst one. But Haas has to stay at the bottom because of their American pandering. Let's talk about Ferrari, okay? Didn't like the livery. Too much white. That HP strip is bad. It's probably the worst integrated team sponsor. It definitely is the worst integrated team sponsor. It's even more egregious than the stake. Really, right? Because the stake is, you know, completely taken over the Sauber team. But the actual reveal of the Ferrari, it has to go in S tier. All right, it has to go into S tier. My Ferrari heart is bleeding, but it was just a really solid image showing how the Ferrari car has changed throughout the year. Historic team. It's the 75th year. And then just the fact that Lewis Hamilton is walking out there in red instantly puts it S tier. Apart from that, like, I think all three of them on stage, Fred, Lewis, and Leclerc, or Charles, they did nothing bad. Like, their little one word, sure, it was kind of cheesy, but at least, like, they looked comfortable on stage. It looked rehearsed. It looked professional. There was nothing wrong about that reveal apart from the livery itself. So I think Ferrari nailed it. It wasn't anything crazy or any, like, you know, it was a kind of mild way to go. And they did do the same thing as other teams, but I think they did it the best. And then we have McLaren. McLaren, I also kind of have to put in A tier, slightly below. I think they also did a really cool thing showing how the cars changed. Putting all those different cars out there looked really cool. It's only like the interviews that was slightly worse. Brundle being the one interviewing them felt kind of off. It felt like they were kind of got swallowed by the stage. And then asking Lando if he's going to win the Drivers' Championship again. I feel sorry for Lando because he's been asked that so many times. Let's just leave the poor bloke alone. But I mean, it wasn't bad. It was good. I liked seeing the different cars. So overall, a decent reveal. And I think that's my ranking. Let me know if you disagree, if you thought any of the reveals or any of the liveries were better or worse than what I've given them credit for. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and good night.